Okay, next we're going to do a little tutorial on how to change the view of your open Windows File Explorer. So as you can see, I've got different windows open here in File Explorer, and they all look a little bit different, right? And so I'll just go full screen on my Downloads folder to give you guys an example. So here's a Downloads folder, and at the top we have what's called the ribbon. And so you can actually open and close this ribbon with this little arrow right here. So if you don't see that, and you just see these options like so, that's fine. You can leave that like that if you want. I prefer to leave this down. There's a few different tabs within that ribbon that you should know about. But the one we're going to focus on right now is this View tab. So make sure you've got that View tab selected. And what you can see here is that there's a couple different options for how you're viewing your File Explorer. So right now I've got it set to large icons, but you can change this just by clicking on each of these and seeing how they show up. And some of these might give you extra information or show you in a different way, but you should be fairly familiar and comfortable switching between these different modes because there's certain cases in which you'd prefer to see details, and there's certain cases in which you prefer to see large icons. So it really depends on what type of files and folders are in the folder that you're looking at in terms of how you'd like to view it. There is another way to change that view, and that is if your mouse is anywhere within your main Explorer window, you can just hold Control on your keyboard and scroll your mouse wheel. All right? If you're using a laptop with a precision trackpad and you don't have a mouse, newer trackpads will enable you to actually do the same thing by pinching and zooming. So if your cursor is over this open window, you'll be able to pinch and zoom. You may need to still hold Control to do that. Oh, no. Actually, I think pinch and zoom, you don't need to hold Control. However, there's another way you can do that, which is if you hold Control and you use a two-finger scroll. So on your trackpad, if it's a precision trackpad, two-finger will scroll up and down the same as a mouse doing this. So just like scrolling with my mouse wheel will go up and down within this folder, on a trackpad, two fingers will do the same as that mouse wheel. So Control plus those two fingers should zoom in and out. Now I'm on a desktop computer here, so it's very hard for me to test this, but you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. If it's not, then try the pinch to zoom option, and pinch to zoom will zoom in and out, and I believe that will change the way your icons look. However, if you're a professional user, you use a mouse always. Do bear that in mind. A computer mouse will make your life so much easier. Holding Control will zoom in and out, and as you can see, as I change the zoom level, you'll see in the top left there, the way that my icons are displayed is changing. So as I'm zooming smaller, it's changing to medium icons and then small icons, and then it changes to eventually list, and then details, and then tiles, and then content. And so for each of these, it just gives you more or less information. So it's really personal how you choose to use it. But there is one thing that I would like all of you to make sure you have done. And that is right here, File Name Extensions. Please make sure this is checked. In the modern day and age, it's very important to understand what a .jpeg is, what a .pdf is, what a .exe is. And if you have that unchecked, you can't actually tell. So for example, right now I've unchecked it. This picture and this picture, this could be a PNG, this could be a JPEG, this could be a GIF or a GIF. I know there's an argument on how to say it. It's GIF, by the way. It's not GIF. So by enabling that file name extension, you can tell what type of file it is. And the file name extension are these last 3 or 4 digits that appear after the file name. All right, and so for example, this is a .jar. That's a JavaScript file. This is a .jpeg. This is another kind of JPEG, a different kind of JPEG. So as you can see, enabling that file extension name is really an important thing. Hidden items, if you're not an admin or you're not familiar with computers, you should turn this off. You should make sure that is unchecked. However, if you are an admin or you're confident with computers, you can turn this on to see the hidden items within a folder. If you're not a computer expert, don't delete hidden files. Oftentimes hidden files and hidden folders are crucial for computer systems to operate, so be careful with that. And then the last thing I want to show you over here in terms of view is this preview page and details page. So right now, as you see it, your whole File Explorer is kind of just filled up with these icons. But if you wanted to enable a preview, you can just turn on this preview pane over here, and this will give you a little section here on the right side. Now you can change the size of that preview area by just dragging that little spacer between it. And when you select a file, it will actually give you a preview of that image, right? So here we can see all sorts of different previews of photos, but it also works for PDFs. So for example, I've just clicked on a PDF of a job announcement, and there it is. It kind of pops up on that preview pane. So it won't preview for everything. So for example, .exe, those are executable files. So those are usually installation or program running files. They don't have any preview because there's nothing really to show. But for any file that has a preview, it will appear over there. So videos, pictures, graphics, and documents and PDFs typically will give you a nice little preview. Personally, I don't use that. I'm happy to just open it and look at it if I need to see more information. The details pane also does something similar. So if you open the details pane here, you can see a little bit more information about the file. But once again, I typically wouldn't use this because I'd much rather, if I need to get this information, the size, date created, I can just change the way I'm viewing this to details, and then the details are right there. Or if I really need to see more information, you can right-click on anything and click Properties. So right-click and Properties, and from there on anything, and we'll be going through this in greater detail later, but you can see all sorts of extra information about that file. And so that's how I would prefer to do that rather than waste this space with this details pane. Okay, the last thing that we need to talk about is the sorting and the grouping of these files. So normally by default it will be a mess like this, everything grouped together, and typically it will just be sorted alphabetically. So 1 coming first and A coming before Z. But you can change a lot of that, and so there's a few ways to do that, as there are often a few different ways to do things with computers. And you can click on Sort By up here and change how it's sorted. So I'm going to sort by name, and now it's entirely alphabetical, right? But if I sort by date modified, then the stuff that I've kind of opened and used recently will appear at the top. You can customize this by type, so it'll kind of sort them by all the EXEs are up here together, and then it will transition to all the JPEGs, and so all the movies are then together, but in one big kind of group, one big section. If you want them to be a little bit better organized, you can also group them by something. So right-click, Group. And so in this case, one of the most useful ways to group things is by type. So if I group them by type, now all my PDFs are at the top, all my applications are here, file folders are here, and then here's my JPEG files, and it even gives you the number, how many are in that section, in that group. So this is easy if you've downloaded a video, and you can just quickly find that video in that folder. So yeah, you should be fairly comfortable switching between these different view modes. And then you can even, in certain modes, so for example, if we're in details, we can add more columns. So right here we've got name, date, type, size, and date created. But you can go ahead and add all sorts of other things to this if you want to get extra information. So you could add authors now if you need that. So you can do all sorts of little interesting things there to get more or less information on your files and your folders. And I think that sums up our video tutorial on how to view and adjust the view of your Windows files.